time for another OptiNews. I realized I had a long time to do this, or even update my channel with anything, as I was either busy with other things, even real life, or I I stopped working on some stuff, or I was lost into Amstrad CPC coding again, and recently I released an effect I was trying to optimize for more than 2 weeks in a small intro with a new group. We are called Osmium Path. It's me, Optimus, and Ham, and we released this intro where I had finally the opportunity to show the Julia Morpher effect running on an Amstrad CPC. But there are plans to make an Optimosophy where I explain a bit how I made it run in real time. Now the thing is, I originally was working with this effect on SDCC and I had a C prototype, then I started translating to assembly language, so I wasn't even planning to make an intro at the time. But then later, I thought, let's convert everything to assembly. And so I converted a lot of my code and I thought it was running perfectly, but I think I messed up my moving curves, and so in the intro it doesn't, which you can go get and see here, it doesn't it looks very repetitive, and I could have added more parts if there was time, but you know, deadlines, and when you're making an intro it's not an interactive thing. But I'm gonna just show you briefly how the SDCC version was. It had the better curve, and I only now plotted the curve. Now it's 100% timing, no turbo mode, no overclock. Maybe I can make this bigger. So you see, this is I cannot show with them. This below is the path it takes, and it elongates in an ellipsis, then it goes more vertically and less horizontally. So there is a lot of progress till it repeats in the beginning of the loop. But I messed up something on the intro and it doesn't look so well. And here the Julia fractal looks much better. It goes through more morphing positions, and you see a bit of the outside and a bit of the inside. And to prove that it's real time, I did this after the intro. After I finished the intro, I added this mode where it shows me the path so that I see what I missed in the intro. It was more closed loop. And now I have added, you press space and you really have an interactive Julia. Just to show you that it's really real time. It's not an animation in the intro. You see now the frame rate. If I go far, you also see if I go too far, that's another proof it's real time. Some of the numbers explode and they go outside of my table, my lookup tables. And you also see if it's outside, it gets like 15 frames per second. Here it gets 9 frames per second. If you make it solid, it should get less, but it gets 10 frames per second. Because of the subdivision I do, there are more pixels that are similar and less pixel calculate. If you make a more complex in some of the morphing, you might hit 9 at worst. Here you might hit more. It's pretty cool. Okay, it's a real-time Julia. The size is 48 by 48. It's really 48 by 24 mirrored on the lower side. It doesn't sound much. It's 2 mode 0 pixels and scan lines. It's 1 byte per pixel. And it doesn't sound much, but I'll explain how I did it fast. If you just do it with multiplies, even if you don't do it, if you do it with lookup tables in C or in lookup tables with not very optimized assembly, it would be much slower. It would be 2 frames, 3 frames, 1 frame per second. And without the subdivision, I think this does 6 frames per second. Around 6 frames. So it is a real time. I am a bit sad I couldn't show it properly on the intro. Show different curves. I even missed the main curve, which would be enough. But okay. Maybe next time I'll make an improved version of the effect. Even for other platforms, you know, like the Sam Coupe. I have some ideas how to fit more table data for bigger Julia, so that if you go on the edges, you don't reach the end of the tables. And that's from the CPC side. And there are a lot of ideas for effect I almost wanted to start working. So you will see a demo or intro from us in the future. I don't know when. We don't have any plans right now. And probably a better version of the Julia, because I have more ideas about it. What else has been happening? Not recently, but maybe a month ago or more, I was doing a little bit of 3DO experiments. But I have a long time to go back to it. And I want, after finishing this CPC, after I finish the CPC intro, I might want for a while to go back to some stuff. Now let's see. Yeah, maybe run Phoenix. I'm not gonna bother run the real hardware for now. Just gonna run Phoenix, which is the more accurate. So what I was doing here? One thing, the last thing I was doing in the engine was trying to add some particles. You know, so those are the particles. These are billboards. I think I'm okay. Maybe one if they are alpha blended, I don't sort them, but I also have a version where I sort them, and I try them with solid. Oh, what is this? You see that? See these wrong graphics? There is a memory leak or something. Some of my particles. Pretty cool, isn't it? And I had some other particles too. I just can't find them. So one thing is that. The other thing is, maybe I'll try to show the other particles. So I changed something in the code. I stopped animating them. And I added some more, so that if I animated all of this, it would be much slower. But if I have them as static, yeah, now this is, see, it's slower, but it's 1024 particles. And the speed is not quite different in the real 3DO. So you can have 1024. It's pretty cool. I was doing some other videos where I move them around in a sinusoid. And it works well. If I had them animated like particle effects, it would be much slower. But you don't need so many. I'm just trying to show the power of this engine. We were talking about voxel landscapes in the Discord. So I was trying various experiments. Now I found this page where this was an attempt to do very fast voxel landscape on the Acorn Archimedes. Although it's not done like with ray casting, it's done in a different. It's done by projecting. Let's see, projecting a lot of scale points, scale rectangles, scale dots landscape, fake voxel, and it's moving towards one direction. And you see them here. You see them. That was one way to do it. That's not the final thing. That was the first thing I tried. That's a nice article. It even shows old demos that tried it. I love voxel landscapes. But this one is something I tried very fast with the engine and with the particle system. Before I went for the real deal, the real ray casting, which can be slower or faster depending. So this one is the way with scaled rectangles, and it's pretty bad because you see all these scale rectangles. They even disappear where they are outside the viewing plane. Although I didn't need to do it. It was an attempt to do some voxel surface. But anyway, maybe not the best approach, but this is the approach that this Archimedes experiment does, because it's moving always in one direction, you know. So it might be easier to hide the rectangles. Maybe the ones that are closer make them bigger and the others further away smaller, and render less of them further away. And it looks very blocky. Then in the volume effects project, I took a different approach. I took the approach, the common approach. No, let's run Phoenix. I'm confused. I just ran 4DO, and I know no Opera yet. I have to set it up. Just that 4DO runs a bit faster, I think. So if I want to test something very fast, it's ideal now. Maybe put the real deal. And that's it, I think. Oh, but that one is very slow right now. Let's see, where are the controls? I thought I had it. And it's very low res. Yeah, I found the controls. Okay, to elevate it. Yeah, there's one control that drops you down, and there's one that if you go here, of course, it's a bit faster, but not by much. And I mean, it's not easy to optimize a voxel for that low processor. You even see there is some banding. I have made better versions of this voxel landscape for the Game Boy Advance, for the 386. Actually, it's slow on the 386, but on a 486 and Pentium, it's much better. So I have tried various methods. Here I'm trying, you see the temple is flickering a bit because I'm trying stepping not in a increasing my stepping by the distance, so I might be skipping some samples and the skipping might be irregular as I move. That was the first attempt. Now I think I have another one here. Let's see. Well, I tried without the color map. That one was from commands, by the way, but I tried this one. Let's see. It's the same. Oh, this one has a rotation even. Yeah. I don't know if I increased the... I mean, it's not final. I can find ways to make things faster. Also, the arm on the 3DO is pretty slow sometimes. If I do the pre-calculated approach, of course, from that Acon Archimedes tutorial, it's different than this one. And I will mostly be able to move forward. Yeah, you can brute force things to render the exact points only and not sample and raycast. It's still cool that I can, in this version, I can rotate. And of course, it's a simple gradient. Still have a lot of noise, and you cannot. I should put the sky background, and the drawing distance is too short. I've made some better GBA versions. Sample the GBA version. It's not rotating. It even has a nice fade in the distance. Let's see, which button was it? Okay, at least I have that, but there was a button. Yeah, this camera. To be able to walk on the ground. The Game Boy Advanced version. A bit better frame rate. It's still blocky, it's half pixel. Maybe the drawing distance is better. Although if you go too high, yeah, if you go too high, the distance will be closer, of course. But here it's fine, you could kinda make a game. And I could add the rotation. It doesn't cost much to also make the rotation. This looks pretty cool in the little Game Boy Advance screen. So I was trying my luck with the voxel. I have a much better resolution version for Pentium. Just to show you where I got the inspiration for the voxel, I just found this page, which is a good tutorial, even has source code, and does it on, is it in JavaScript, I think. It even tells the history. And that's where I got the height maps. Now I could extract it from the game, but these ones are PNG, clear PNGs. There are color height maps, and there are pure height maps. You want this for the height of the column and the other for the color. And it explains very nicely the algorithm and how you sample across lines from the view here up to the distance. This is a back to front, but you can go front to back. Shows how you rotate all the sample point. Mine might have less sampling points closer distance because these are too many. It has very nice basic code to understand. It explains. I try to do that. I try as you go further to keep the distance greater, but I can't get it right. And you see even close up you still see some issues. It's pretty nice introduction to get the how it works and even use some of the PNGs here. Anyone you want. Now this one with the pyramid. It's not here. This is a very small one. I think that one with the pyramid, yeah. It's very commonly used. I have seen it in a lot of demos. A lot of demos in demos, this one. But that's where I got it. Finally, two experiments I was doing on the 3DO, and I'm now too lazy to connect the capture system to the OB and show you this, because I did some private captures a long time ago that I posted on our Discord. And I just wanted to see in the real hardware and not in the emulator, if you render or blend one layer, one full 16-bit layer, two full 16-bit layers, and so on, when does it hit? When does it go under 60 frames per second? I mean, what is the throughput of a pure rendering of 2D backgrounds on the 3DO? And how it seems that 3DO can do one 16-bit layer, but if you go for a second 16-bit layer, 320 by 240 on top, it's gonna drop under 60, maybe 50, 60 FPS. And if you blend it, it's going to drop at 30. And I was doing those tests here, so I'd rather show you in my channel. Now, there is also an extra layer. This is the background, the static background. It has the hardware has this. I talked about this before. S port, serial port. It's called. It's not a serial connect. It's called sport for some reason. It's DMA. This feature is called S port for some reason. It's DMA to bleed a static background very fast, but you cannot scroll that static background. But you can have a static background that is taking almost no performance, and it's taking very little. And in front of the background, you can definitely scroll. Oh, what the fuck? There was an explosion outside. Maybe just okay. Forget it. It was loud. So I'm showing. I'm at 50 frames per second because I was testing this on the PAL 3DO, and I have VSync on. I might remove the VSync on. Now it's one background. Now two backgrounds. It drops at 25 with VSync on. So you can have it was still impressive for the time, but because it's two big blended 16-bit backgrounds in front of another static background. But it shows you how quickly things drop if you want to make some. Now I'm blending something else there. With one background, it's great. You can get the 50 frame. Now remove the blend. Now I might be blending things behind, but you can't see. That's why I drop at 25. Because now I'm testing without the VSync. I remove the VSync. This screen, by the way, is 8-bit. No, it might be 4-bit per pixel. So I reduced the. I think it's 4-bit per pixel. So if you render it alone, it can get 190 frames. If you render a 16-bit alone, without the blending, you get over 60 frames per second, but maybe 80, 90 frames per second. So you don't get much higher. But I want to show you here. That might be even compressed. And it has a lot of same pixels. So it's packed cell textures. So it's even much faster to read it. And I'm doing various tests here. Maybe there's nothing interesting anymore. Just to check the limits. 80 without the VSync, 80 frames per second. And that drops to 40. Over 30. And those are a lot of layers, really. And with the, if you enable the sport background, in the hardware the VSync is happening automatically. So I cannot test with the sport background if it's not a solid color. There is one mode that will clear the screen with a solid color, and that's okay. You can have VSync disabled, but if it's a full background, then it will VSync automatically. So I cannot test how high above 25 it is. Anyway, and here, this is a better example. I thought, what if I do some parallax scrolling thing? Where you don't need to have a big layer that every pixel is solid. You can have big areas that are transparent, not translucent, don't blend it, transparent, like empty pixels, because if you save those textures, especially, even if you don't, if you pack them, if you compress them, there are big areas that the 3D hardware will skip to even read and will skip rendering, so it will improve. So in the previous example, you are like, what? I cannot do more than 2 layers, and even 2 layers, 2 parallax layers will kill, but they were full screen, every pixel. But you can make some nice, and you can tweak it, okay? You can make a better work with, and also with the help of your artist, you can reduce the bits per pixel for some of the background. You can go 8 bits per pixel, 6 bits per pixel, 4 bits per pixel. You can break the background in regions and use different palettes for regions. So you have to tweak it. If you want to make a 2D game with a lot of parallax scrolling, you have to tweak something. And that's a crude test now. It's not the best test. So I have all these layers. I have the static, that blue sky with the glowing sun or flare. It's a sport background. It's a static background that is rendered much faster with the sport DMA thing of the 3D. The others are cells, pure cells, one-to-one unscaled sprites, no scale, like regular sprites, using the cell processor. And we have 1, 2 parallax layer, those gates, the grass. Okay, I made a bad work to hide there are at the earliest pixel that look bad, of course, and the big graded thing moving. And look, it's 50 frames. This is on the real hardware. This is captured from the real hardware, by the way. So you can have this graded parallax already, And I added keys to remove them. The 3DO Lego solid, blended with the background, still 50 frames. I put the gate, the other gate, still 50 frames, and now it will drop to 25 frames, of course. Sometimes it goes 50, depending on if the gates are inside or outside. If you don't blend it, now I don't blend it, it's 50 frames with all this layer. If I blend it, it's 25. It's pretty good example. I'm trying now, okay, you see flickering because I disable the VSync, just to see how much frames above I am when I remove stuff. With this one I'm 55, no blending. It's pointless, I'm just doing stuff. The blending is expensive, but and an artist can tweak even more the graphics, make them look better, reduce the colors, you know. And I'm switching layers like crazy, you know. Those experiments are actually in my GitHub. GitHub video experiments. This is a public repository. You can go and try to combine the stuff. A lot of this. I even tried the Julia, but the slow version of it. The one I later ported on the CPC. But these experiments are here. So anyone can build and try. Now this is 60 frames per second because it's NTSC. And you see now it's more clear how bad the pixels, the DLI pixels look, and unfortunately it needs manual work. And I see it's different because I reduced the bits per pixel. Maybe it's 4 bits per pixel, or maybe it's 8. I don't remember. And and the grasses and everything. But and the 3DO doesn't have different blending per pixel. Actually, there are 2 levels of blending. Yeah, you can you can have a solid and a blended one at the edges. So some things could improve a bit. You could have a semi-anti-aliasing on the sprites, but with one level. Full solid, full transparent, and something in between. And now I think I can remove that. Yeah. See, if I add this is the background sport, it syncs automatically no matter what. And then which button was? Oh, here. Okay. See, with the blend on, it does 54. It doesn't hit the 60 for the. But here it is. But this is on Phoenix. Phoenix is doing better. On the real hardware, it will be a bit slower. It tries to account for cycles in the cell engine, but even with the most, I see it does a bit better. Maybe a 20-30% better. Now, of course, if you ignore, it goes crazy. Like, see. Now, if you enable the background, which is on the sport, the VSync is automatic. You cannot disable it. If you disable it, but you see some blue stuff because it's the other function of the sport that clears the screen very, very fast. This function, you can have it with VSync off. But you know, that's not real. And neither is this one. It approximates. This one, it approximates. And it will be a bit better. Anyway, guys, maybe I should finish this OptiNews here, and hopefully, if I can get myself to work and I'm not busy with other things, I could do an Optimosophy explaining the 8-bit Julia fractal. I just need to do it carefully, because if I rush it, I might start talking, like in this video, of course, and it might end up longer than it should, and more confusing. So, we'll see. Till next time. Bye.